Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome and welcome back to my channel and welcome to Vlogmas Day 31. So this is my first official video using my new camera. I am so excited, so I hope you guys like the quality of it. But today we are talking about my favorite books of 2020. So normally with these videos I try to do a top 10 and just talk about my top 10 favorite books of the year, but I just had too many this year and I couldn't seem to narrow it down. So we're going to talk about kind of my top 12, kind of my top 14, because I've mushed some books together because I do have some criteria I want to go into these videos. So I typically try to do like one book per series, one book per author, just try to help myself narrow it down a little bit. But there were just some books by some authors that I just couldn't pick between, so they both had to be on the list, and I've just decided to count them as one book because they're by the same author. So I'm breaking my own rules a little bit for this video, but it's fine. I have a lot of great books to talk about with you guys, so let's just get started. Before we get into the official list, the official favorite books of the year, I do have one little honorable mention because I just felt weird putting it on the list. Like I felt like it was taking up a space that I didn't want to be taking up. But that book is Love Creekwood by Becky Albertalli. This is the girl. This is the novella collection for the Simonverse series, and it's told completely in email formatting. The reason why I felt weird adding this officially onto the list is because it is a novella. It is really short, and I just didn't want a small book to take up an official spot in my favorite books. Do you know what I mean? This one just felt too small to do that, I guess. But I really adored this book. I thought it was a great addition to the Simonverse world. It wasn't necessary, but I really enjoyed it, especially since I didn't love Leah on the Offbeat, and it kind of left a little sour taste in my mouth in a way. This just kind of rectified that a little bit. It does focus mainly on Blue and Simon, which is really great, and it takes place during their first year of college, so I really adore that. So I knew I could not make this video without mentioning this book, but I knew that it couldn't officially be on the list. So I've talked about it. I loved this book. I definitely recommend it if you guys love the Simonverse world. Now let's get into the official list. So this is not in an order of least favorite to favorite. I tried to do that and I just looked at the list and I got too overwhelmed, and I'm like, nope, I can't put it in an order. So the order that I went with today is basically in order that I read them throughout the year. It's not completely accurate, but it's pretty much in the order of when I read them throughout the year. So the first ones I'm going to talk about today are There's Something About Sweetie and 10 Things I Hate About Pinky by Sandy Menon. I could not make this video without talking about these two books because I loved them so much. Also, for the sake of this video, I'm not going to go into synopses for any of these books just because I have a lot of things to talk about and I don't want this video to be really long. I'm not going to talk about what all these books are about. I'll leave the Goodreads pages down below if you guys want to see what these books are about. I loved these books literally so much. I love Sandy Menon in general. I just love her characters and her stories. Her plots are so good. The relationships are just so swoon-worthy and amazing. Specifically in There's Something About Sweetie, I really loved all of the conversations and topics around body positivity and being okay with who you are and not letting anyone else's opinions kind of overshadow the way that you feel about yourself and not let them kind of influence what you feel about yourself. I also really like the topics of just because somebody else might view you as not being worthy or as not being pretty enough or skinny enough, or their idea of what they think is pretty, doesn't mean that you're not, and doesn't mean that you can't be with somebody who's more conventionally attractive. There were just a lot of great conversations going on within this book that I really enjoyed, and I also just really loved the relationship between Sweetie and Ashish. We met Ashish in When Dimple Met Rishi, and I loved him in that book, and it was no different in this one. I think these characters just really pop off of the page, and their chemistry was so real, and I just really loved all the tension and kind of all of the things going on between them throughout this book, and I want to reread it so bad. It was just so well done. And then in terms of 10 Things I Hate About Pinky, I again loved the characters and the relationship in this book. It is a kind of hate to love fake dating situation, which are two of my favorite tropes, and so I really enjoyed that, and I felt like they were done really well. And I also loved the whole conversation with Pinky and her parents, and her also kind of not being good enough for her parents, and them kind of viewing her as not really a disappointment, but she just never makes the right choices that they want her to make, and she wants to prove to them that she does make good decisions, that they're just not seeing it the same way that she is, I guess. And I just think that everything about this book was done so well. Sandy Menon just has some gorgeous writing with great characters, great plot, great everything, honestly great messages. I don't know, these books just took up a big place in my heart, and I honestly could not pick between them because I just loved them both both so much, and I'm really sad that this little series is over now. I'm not going to get to see new material from this world, from these characters, but it was just so beautiful. I'm really happy that I got to read them and experience them and love them. I just think that they are literally perfection. I have literally like no complaints about either of these books, and I'm really happy that I got around to reading them this year. The next book is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This book jump-started my obsession with adult romances this year, as you guys will see later on in this list, but I loved this book so much. I actually read it twice this year because I just couldn't help myself. I love it a lot, and I can definitely see myself reading it a lot next year as well. It's just such like an addictive quick read, but this one took me by surprise. I bought it just kind of on a whim, had heard some good things about it on booktube and just thought, hey, it's cheap, let me give it a chance. So I picked it up, and the beginning of it, I wasn't that hooked or like invested. I didn't really like the writing. The characters felt kind of weird, and I just wasn't really vibing with it yet, but then I got sucked into the story and the characters, and it just completely like locked into place for me and like stole my little heart. I absolutely adored these characters and their relationship with each other. It's like low-key hate to love, but not really. It's like very minimal kind of hate to love, enemies to lovers. It does not last very long. I loved the tension and the chemistry between our main characters. I also really loved the backdrop of them working at a publishing house and just kind of seeing like that side of it all. They were fighting for the same internship, which is really like tension filled, and I don't know, like I just think the story was so beautiful and told so well. And I think in the year of 2020 I was really looking for books to just help me escape and just help me feel something good, and this book made me feel all of the good things, all the fluffy happy feelings, butterflies in my stomach, like endless smiling. Like it was just such a fun read. This was such a source of comfort as well for me this year, which is why I read it twice because I needed the comfort and it was there, so I read it. But yeah, I absolutely adored this book. It had everything that I love in a romance. There was support, there was love, there was tension and chemistry, and there was one of my favorite things in the world, which are cute nicknames. I love when love interests have cute nicknames for each other, and the love interest Joshua calls our main character Shortcake, and I just think it's the cutest thing, especially when you read it and you kind of know why he calls her Shortcake. It's just absolutely adorable, and now I really want to reread this book, but this one just completely stole my heart this year, and I am so happy that I read it and that I fell in love with it, because it's literally jump-started my love of adult romance, and it's going strong, guys. It's going really strong. The next book I'm going to talk about is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. I've been screaming about this book from the rooftops literally all year long, so there is no way this book wouldn't make it onto this list. I think this was on my most anticipated reads of the year. I don't know if it made it into the video because I did make the video a bit late into the year, but I was definitely anticipating this book this year, and it just completely blew me away. I was in the perfect mood for it because at the time of reading this book I was gearing up to write the second draft of my musical theater book where they're doing a production of Grease, and this book is a loose Grease retelling. It's like inspired by Grease, but there are a lot of nods to Grease in this story, and it was just done so well. All of the little nods and references to the original movie, it was just amazing. I also really loved the characters and the story of this book. I really loved the relationship in this book and kind of how messy and imperfect and flawed it was. It was a very complicated situation for our main character and the love interest. I was so captivated and intrigued by it the entire time, wanting to know what was going to happen, how it was going to end up. This book was such an easy and quick read. It is a pretty short contemporary story, so it's bound to be a quick read, and I was just completely captured by it. I love the characters. I love everything about this book. I also really loved Sophie Gonzalez's writing style, so just everything about this book was a yes from me. I really loved it. The next book was quite a surprise for me as well, and that is Always Never Yours by Emily Wibberley and Austin Sigmund Broca. So the reason why I was surprised by this book was kind of just picked it up impromptu. I saw it online, it was cheap, and I was also again gearing up to write my book about a high school Grease production. This one does follow like high school theater and things like that, and so I was wanting some inspiration, but I'd heard some things about this online, but not like an astounding amount of things, and I also couldn't remember if it was good or bad things that I had heard, so I just wasn't really expecting that much from this story. I just picked it up in hopes I would get some sort of inspiration for how to deal with high school theater, and I loved it. I completely fell in love with this book and the story. The characters were just so much fun to read about, and I really deeply connected with them. I also really loved the whole relationship. It was kind of like friends to lovers, and it was adorable. There was so much tension with this book and the relationships and everything going on, particularly in the second half and near the end of the book, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it was done really, really well. Now, the only like complaint-ish thing that I have about this book is there was some slight cheating near the end of the story, but personally reading about cheating does not bother me, but if it does bother you, just keep that in mind. I do think that it was resolved pretty quickly and maybe as best as it could be resolved, I guess. But cheating in stories obviously is a thing that a lot of people don't enjoy, but it didn't bother me, like I said, all that much. And I was just, I don't know, I was just completely along for the ride with this book, and I think that everything about it was just done really, really well. I also really liked the writing styles. It is written by 2 different authors. They are a married couple, which I think is adorable. Throughout my reading experience, I couldn't tell that it was written by 2 different authors. Like, if I didn't know, I wouldn't know. So I think that they just meshed their styles like so seamlessly. I really, really enjoyed that. So everything about this book was, again, a yes from me. It just did everything so well. Did exactly what I wanted it to, and like way, way more. I love when I go into a book not expecting all that much from it and it ends up being a favorite. Like, when I bought this book earlier this year, I never would have expected it to make it onto this list, but it has, and I love it so much. The next book I'm going to talk about is Serious Moonlight by Jen Bennett. This was another bit of a surprise for me. I loved Jen Bennett's book Alex Approximately. Felt okay about her novel Starry Eyes, so this one really could have been a hit or miss situation for me. So I went into it trying not to expect too much from it, but I ended up adoring it, and I think I fell in love pretty quickly with it as well. I loved the whole mystery aspect of the story, and I think that Jen Bennett, one of the things that she does the best is incorporating her characters' hobbies into the story and kind of having the entire book surround their hobby, and our main character Birdie's hobby is solving mysteries, and so I think that was just done so seamlessly and beautifully, and that's one of my favorite things about Jen Bennett and her books. I also really loved the relationship in this book. I really liked the whole progression of it, and I really liked all the conversations around one night stands and kind of what that can mean for different people, and also about our main character Birdie and how closed off she is and hesitant to love and to let people in because of her past, and fearing that everyone always leaves, anyone that she lets into her life always leaves. So she's like, what's the point of letting anybody in? Which is something that I think is relatable for a lot of people, which I really enjoyed. There were also some like plot twists and like the whole end to the mystery, which I really enjoyed and I think was really well done. I did kind of see it coming, but like I only saw it coming like right before it happened, so it wasn't like a big deal. And I actually also enjoy when I can guess plot twists and things like that, because then I just feel really smart. I think that's something that Jen Bennett does really, really well overall, and particularly with this book, is weaving in these kind of like important topics and conversations and feelings that people have in real life, and just kind of incorporating them so seamlessly into her books and making it such an integral part of the story. I just love the deeper meanings to her books and the different things that you can pull and take away from it and relate to. I just think that this book was so beautiful, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time reading it, and so it was definitely a favorite of the year. Okay, so welcome to the next portion of this video where I just gush about romance books for a few minutes. So the next books I have to talk about are Get a Life Chloe Brown and Take a Hint Dani Brown, both by Talia Hibbert. These books completely blew me away this year, so after reading The Hating Game, I really wanted to get into more romance books, so I decided to buy some more. So I bought Get a Life Chloe Brown. I have a whole romance reading vlog that I did up on my channel that you guys can check out. I'll link it up in the cards and below in the description for you if you have not yet seen it, because I love that video. I wanted to pick this one up because so many people were raving about it, talking about it, gushing over it, and so I really wanted to give it a try. And if you can't tell by all the tabs in it and the fact that it's in this video, I fell in love with it. It actually took me a hot second to get into the story. Like, if you look at my tabs, the tabs don't start until like this much into the book. It did take me a minute to get into the story and to adjust myself to Talia Hibbert's writing style, and I don't really know why, but once I actually got into the story, I was completely captured by it and fell like head over heels in love. I was completely invested, gushing over it, absolutely freaking out. I loved the relationship in the story and the characters that are in the relationship. I felt like there was a lot of tension there, and I really liked the ending of it, and I like all of the things going down at the end were really well done. There were also some deep conversations within the story, as well as our love interest Red deals with the past of toxic relationships. He got out of a toxic relationship and it really affects him, and I really enjoyed all of the topics and conversations around that. Our main character deals with fibromyalgia, and I've heard that this book represents that quite well, so I enjoyed that aspect. And I just think that this book was so swoon-worthy and so magical, and I am just obsessed with it. So naturally I had to pick up Take a Hint Dani Brown, and I cannot pick between these two, hence why they are both on this list. list because I loved them. I feel like for similar reasons but also for different reasons. I connected to this one a lot because our love interest Daff deals with anxiety, so I was able to relate to a lot of aspects surrounding him and his anxiety, which I really enjoyed. Then we also deal with Dani, who is very closed off to love. She's been burned in the past, and so she's kind of not looking for a relationship. She just wants somebody to kind of sleep around with, no like attachments whatsoever. She's just like very closed off to even the idea of being in love or being in a relationship, and I really enjoyed that as well, which I also think is quite relatable to a lot of people. And again, just so swoon worthy. I didn't tab this one, I think I just wasn't thinking about it, but I'm just like obsessed with it, and I just think that Talia Hibbert has such a way with writing chemistry between characters and all of the tension, and she just hits all of the beats really well. It's steamy, it's swoon worthy, it's emotional, it just literally hits all of the things that I want in a book. And so I am really happy that I read these this year. I'm absolutely head over heels in love with them, and I can definitely see myself rereading them a million times over and never getting tired of them because they are just that good. Okay, so for the last straight up romance on this list, I have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I also read this one for that romance reading vlog, and I am obsessed with this book. Oh my goodness. So I absolutely loved the romance in this story. I mean, obviously it's a romance book, so if I didn't like the romance, that'd be pretty sad, but I loved the romance and the tension between our main two people, and I really loved the backstory between them. This is kind of like not really a second chance romance, but like they knew each other when they were in school, and our main character had like a one-sided rivalry with the love interest because he didn't really know that they were rivals, but she like completely thought that they were like out to get each other, and then they end up meeting again in this book and starting over. And so it's kind of like a second chance thing, but it's not like necessarily like a second chance romance because they weren't together at any point before this. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just adored the backstory, and I went into it not knowing that that backstory was there. Like, I don't know if it was like marketed as being like this anywhere, but I had no idea that they knew each other prior to the beginning of this book. And so when I found that out, I was like 10 times more invested in it and was just completely obsessed with that idea of knowing each other at one point and finding your way back to them and like starting this whole new thing. I don't know, it was really good. I also really enjoyed the writing aspects of this story. Our main characters are writers, and so there's a lot of talk of writing and writing craft, which I really enjoyed. I love reading books where our characters are writers or readers, and I got exactly what I wanted from this book with that aspect. It was done so well. I also loved the setting of this book and how everything went down. I think the story was just told really well, and in my opinion this is a top-notch, top-tier, amazing book. And again, look at all those tabs. Like, there was no way this book was not going to be on this list this year. I love it so much. I feel like this next book comes as absolutely no surprise to anyone who's been on my channel this year, but Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. So I love Ashley Poston. I absolutely adore this Once Upon a Con series, and this one might be my favorite. I think it actually is tied with Geekerella, but I adore this one so much because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and Beauty and the Beast is my favorite like fairy tale Disney movie, so I love reading retellings for it, and this one was just done so beautifully. I adore how Ashley Poston does her geeky like contemporary fairy tale retellings. They're just so much fun to read about, and this one was absolutely no different. I loved all the little nods to Beauty and the Beast. Again, the romance is kind of like a hate to love situation, which again, it's one of my favorite tropes. I really enjoy it. Overall, this book was fluffy, it was cute, it was done so incredibly well. I think it was like the perfect little conclusion to this companion series. We got to see cameos, we got to hear about the other characters, and I just think that in general these characters are so beautiful. I think they might be my favorite pair. I need to stop saying things like this because I don't know if this is my favorite or not, but I loved the characters together and separately, and all of their tension and romance and their interactions with each other, and there were some really cute moments. And just what I love about this series is we do get, like with each book, we get like a character who was in the previous book as a main character. So Vance from this book was a character in Princess and the Fangirl, which is the book previous to this one, and he is like not a great guy, and you don't like, you're not really supposed to like him, but then you get him in this book, and like your mindset completely changes because you get to kind of know him more, and you get to see him change and grow, and it's just so beautiful. And I really enjoy following characters in that way. So this book was a stellar, top tier. I could gush about it for literally forever. I just think that it was done so incredibly well, and I mean, come on, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Like, what more do you want from me? It was excellent. The next book is The Invisible Life of Addie, LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is another book that I've read twice this year, and I specifically read it the second time to just kind of solidify in my head if it deserved to be on this list, and it definitely does. So I actually read an arc for this book. I also did a reading vlog for it, so I'll again link that up in the cards and in the description if you have not yet seen it. It is a spoiler-free vlog, so if you have not read this book yet, you can still go ahead and watch the video. This story and these characters have just completely like stamped themselves onto my heart. Like, I can't stop thinking about Addie or her story or like anything to do with this book. The writing is so lush and beautiful and poetic, and that's one of my favorite things about V.E. Schwab, and I think one of the reasons why I keep coming back to her stories is that writing is just so beautiful. Like, it's definitely one of my favorite writing styles, and I think it lent really well to this story in particular. I also just really loved the whole concept of this book, and I liked how it played out. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I think I went into this book not really thinking about all the implications that this kind of story would have, because with Addie being cursed to live forever but be forgotten by everyone she meets, I didn't really think about everything that meant and would mean for her life and how we live. Like, we take so many things for granted. We just don't really think about certain things. So when I read about a character like Addie, who is literally forgotten by anyone she meets the second that she's out of their eyesight, it was just amazing to kind of think about all the things that we just are naturally given and have, and that we don't even think about. Like, she doesn't have a real place to stay. She doesn't have any ties to anywhere, and it was just, it broke my heart. But I just think that this is such a gorgeous, beautiful story, and I am so connected to Addie and to Henry, and I think it was done so well. I tabbed it up so much, and the second time I read it, I actually cried, like slow, dramatic tears, which are like some of my favorite types of crying to do. Can a person have a favorite way to cry? I don't know, but I guess I do. And I also just in general loved the whole conversation about being forgotten but wanting to be remembered. I feel like a lot of people do have this idea of wanting to be remembered and wanting to kind of be important, to leave a mark, and there's a lot of conversation surrounding that in this story. There's also topics of just wanting to be loved and wanting to be enough for somebody and feeling like you're just never going to be enough. And I connect to it so much, to Addie and to Henry and their stories, and I just think that this book is so powerful and important, and it just literally, like I said at the beginning, stamped its way onto my heart, and I can't stop thinking about it. This book had to be on this list. Like, as I was rereading it, I was like, there's no way this book isn't gonna make it onto my favorites list. Like, it just has to be here. It was just everything that I wanted it to be and more in a way. I really loved it. The next book I have to talk about is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. So I absolutely adored this book. I loved the characters. I really loved the whole story of this book and everything going on with our main character trying to prove themselves as a real brujo, as a trans male, and kind of all the topics surrounding family and identity and all of that, and love. And I loved the relationship in this book. I thought it was really interesting. I mean, our main character falls in love with the ghost. Like, it's so good. And this book was just so intense, and I became so invested in it, like every step of the way. Like, I was there, I was in it, I was here for it. And then by the end, I was just completely like taken over by the story, and I was so stressed out for our characters and what was gonna happen that my face was all scrunched up. I gave myself a headache. Like, I loved this book a whole lot. I think it deserves literally all the hype it's gotten. It deserves to have hit the New York Times bestseller list. I really loved Aiden Thomas's writing style. I think that he did such a good job with this book and told it in such a beautiful way. And I also think that this book can be really important for a lot of people going through similar things as our main character Yadriel. I just think that this book could mean and has meant a lot to so many people, and so I don't know, I really loved this book. I thought this book was just absolutely amazing. It was everything I was wanting from it. It did literally everything right. I have no complaints about this story. It was just absolutely fantastic. The next book is another Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's A Curse, Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer. This is a first book in a series, and I've had it on my shelf since it came out last year, and I finally got around to it this year. I also have a reading vlog where I read this one. It was my Which Booktube Friend Knows My Reading Taste the Best. I'll leave a card for it and a link below in the description if you have not yet seen it. I loved that video. I think it might be my favorite video I've done this year. I'm like a huge fan of it. But this book, oh, this book, I have not felt, I don't think, this attached to a fantasy book in such a long time. Like a brand new story, brand new like everything. I have not been this obsessed with a fantasy series in a while. And let me tell you, I feel pretty grateful for that because I love fantasy and I just can't seem to get into it as often anymore. But I loved this story. Like I said, it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so I loved all of those elements that were tied in, the curse, the like roles of the characters, the little like specific nods to everything, some of the beats that it hit. I was absolutely obsessed with all of it. I also just really loved our characters and having each of their point of views and just kind of seeing them go along their journey and learn all the things that they learned. And I loved their romanticship. Why did I just try to combine romance and relationship into one word? Why did I do that? I just really loved their relationship with each other. I think it was done so well. The chemistry was literally like, oh, it was out of this world. I was completely invested. Like, I was in it. It was yes. I just think that everything about this book was done so incredibly well, and I am just completely obsessed with it. It left on such a cliffhanger, and I can't wait to read the next book, but I am just literally so grateful that I loved a fantasy book, and it's on my favorites of the year list, and it wasn't like a Cassandra Clare book or like an author that I'm familiar with. Like, this is a new author, a new series, a new book, and I'm just so happy that I loved it so much because I really wanted to adore it, and I do, and I'm really happy. Okay, so when I said that Beach Read was the last straight up romance book on this list, I lied because I forgot about In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. So I just read this book this month. I have a reading vlog where I was reading it. Again, I will link it up in the cards and down below in the description if you want to check it out. It was one of my weekly reading vlogs. I picked this book up kind of on a whim. I was doing the 'Tis the Season-a-thon and this was their group book, and I was like, you know what, this book sounds really, really good. I want more holiday books. I want another romance. And so I just picked it up and I loved it. Oh my goodness, it was really cheesy. Like, don't get me wrong, it was hella cheesy and like cliche, but I am here for it. Like, I have no complaints. I really loved the whole Groundhog Day-esque plotline to the story and kind of how it unraveled. I have seen some critiques about it that they just don't think that it went on long enough, and I kind of do agree with that, but it didn't bother me as I was reading, so I'm not gonna let it affect how I feel about this book because I was so invested. Like, let me tell you, I loved it so much. The romance I felt like was really, really good. It was like childhood like best friends. They were like family friends, so like childhood best friends turned lovers situation, and I just thought it was adorable. I love our main character and just kind of all the feelings that she was going through and how frustrated she was with the like time jumps, but then she took it and she like used it to her advantage. I don't know, like I just really loved this book and everything about it. Even the cheesiness and the cliche stuff, like it was just so good in my opinion. I don't know, I think it's just so rare for me to fall in love with a holiday book. I just think they're hard in general to come by, and then it's even harder to come by one that I love dearly and that I think I will reread every single year, but this is one that I can definitely see myself rereading every year. It gave me all of the great Christmas vibes. The romance was amazing and swoon-worthy and just great, and there was a lot of family in it, which I enjoyed as well, and I just think that this book was just so well done, and so it had to be on this list. I did consider not putting it on here, but I just couldn't do it, guys. I couldn't do it. It had to be here because I was just so obsessed with it. I was freaking out. You guys can go see it in the vlog. I just love it so much. So those are all of my favorite books of the year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I also hope that you guys enjoyed Vlogmas because this is obviously the final day of Vlogmas. I had so much fun doing this for you guys, uploading a video every single day. It was hella stressful, but it was a lot of fun at the same time. If you guys are not caught up and have not seen all my Vlogmas videos, playlist is linked down below for you guys to go and check out if you want to go back and watch all of the videos. I'd really appreciate it because like I said, I worked really hard this month and stressed myself out so much to get these videos out for you all. So I hope that you've enjoyed them. I hope you go back and watch them. I'm just so grateful for all of you. So thank you so much for coming along with me on this journey. 2020 was a crazy year, but I'm happy that we can go out on a bang with Vlogmas and with this video. So if you did enjoy it, give it a huge thumbs up. Comment down below what your favorite books of the year were because I'd really love to know. And also comment down below a little book stack emoji if you stayed till the very end. Subscribe if you have not yet already, and I will see you guys tomorrow. No, I can't say that anymore. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.